Welcome back to The Evil Within. This is the final part of Chapter 2 of the assignment, playing on Kurayami mode, and by completing the assignment today, we are going to get the Not Afraid of the Dark achievement. We're also going to read the last of Dr. Jimenez's notes and put together the last bit of Ruvik's message, getting us 2 other achievements in this episode.
In life, we constantly search for a place we feel safe, a home we can always come back to. We imagine that place in our minds and are drawn to it. You had a home, but now that place is here with us.
That's the administrator emphasizing where Kidman has put her trust, where she has given her 10%, her hope, her response to the 10% of life, her 90%, she's given that to Mobius. Mobius has replaced her family. She's replaced everything of value inside of her life and is the source of those things that she values in life now. By giving her consent to them, she has given them power.
Reuben has no idea what he's done. It's not surprising that he doesn't care either. He was never motivated by fear of Mobius. The STEM prototype works, but only when connected to Reuben. I've checked the details, and he customized the whole system to only operate with his own brainwave pattern. I left him alone with the device for far too long. Trusted him too much, and despite all my knowledge in the field, it's past the point of fixing. I can't just flip a switch. And that's not the worst of it. They know as well. I'm not going to take the blame for this. I will drag him here and make him fix it. I can't imagine what they will do to him if he doesn't.
Now, listen to the arrogance there again. He's going to drag Reuben there to fix it. He believes it's something that can still be salvaged, but he's not sure. He has some real fear of Mobius himself. He's saying that Reuben didn't have that fear. Kidman should pick up on the amount of fear that Jimenez is expressing there in Mobius, that he doesn't know what will happen to him. But at least at the time of that writing, at the time of that note, when he went and with men in black suits and took Reuben from his ancestral home and brought him back to Mobius, his intention was to have Reuben fix it. Mobius, of course, we know, took it a step further. They said you locked the system to your brainwaves. Fine, we'll take your brain as the key. So they dissected him and did the same thing to him that he had done to the Elk River villagers. That early message from the administrator was reminding Kidman of where she had placed her trust and where her duties lie now, because they have provided her a home. They have saved her from the 10% that was so horrible in her life, that she had chosen a life of crime and destitution, probably a life in prison, in and out of prison. Now, that's the same administrator that in the last episode told her she had to remove Joseph. That the statement originally had been expendable, and it became basically disposable. That you must get rid of him. You must remove him. Can't make it more clear than that. The administrator was very, very adamant that she remove him. She wasn't going to do that. And that shows you that no matter how much control you have given to someone or an organization, no matter how much hope you have placed in them, that any particular moment you are still capable. It's still your response. It's still possible for you to take control of your 90%. Ruvik took advantage of the situation, probably seeing through the communications between Kidman and the administrator. Remember, she's inoculated, so he can't necessarily see directly into her subconscious the way he can other people, but he can still see her actions and the outward expressions of that subconscious inside of STEM. He can still exert his 10% of obvious kind of fear, but we also know that he's a master of manipulation himself. What he did in the last episode is he manipulated the situation to where she was in conflict with the administrator because the administrator wanted her to kill Joseph or to remove Joseph. She did not want to do that. Ruvik made it to where let's find out how badly she wants to do it, and he forced an issue.
Get them away from the
When
gate.
Kidman and Sebastian started to talk about who Ruvik was, who he was, he had to separate them. He couldn't let the force of will of an independent man like like Sebastian, combined with the knowledge that Kidman has of the system and what's kind of going on. Remember, Joseph and Sebastian have no idea who Ruvik is or Ruben is or how any of that got created or how any of that got tied. Kidman knows that there's a ghost in the machine, and now she's beginning to understand who Ruvik is and how serious he is. Serious of a problem he is. Now, he couldn't let them talk, so he separated them, and Sebastian had to go off and fight with Laura in what was chapter 5. Kidman and Joseph fell through the floor together and wound up in a fight with Joseph turning. But Joseph turning, we know that that's Ruvik. We know that that's what Ruvik does. He consumes people, and as he consumes them, they become husk. They become the haunted zombies that you see wandering the lands. That's what they become when Ruvik consumes them. He forced himself onto Joseph, trying to consume Joseph. He was winning that battle. In other words, Joseph was turning into a haunted. So there were two battles happening. There was Joseph and Ruvik fighting inside Joseph, and there was Kidman and the haunted version of Joseph fighting on the outside of Joseph. Kidman thinks she killed Joseph because she buried an axe in his head, right? So
You can let me in.
Safe?
she feels she killed him.
It's safe now?
But what seems to have actually happened is that she severed the tether, and maybe by knocking him truly unconscious, so that even his subconscious was unconscious. But she severed that tie, and Ruvik was not able to harvest Joseph. So outwardly, you would say Kidman won both battles, right? She won the battle to save Joseph
You're not
from
hurt, are
Ruvik.
you?
She also didn't die at the hands of Joseph. She felt like she lost because she did not want to kill Joseph.
Oh my God,
She
that's
blames
not
that on Ruvik, or not on Ruvik. She doesn't blame it on Ruvik. She blames it on the administrator. She calls out to the administrator saying, "Why are you
Come on,
making me do these
stay
things?"
close to me.
That
I'll
was
protect you.
psyop game that Ruvik was playing. Ruvik wanted to drive that wedge between her and the person that she'd placed her trust in, the administrator. He does this by forcing that battle, by causing Joseph to turn to where they had to have a battle. He didn't have to win that battle. If he wins, great. He gets Joseph's power, gets his bioenergy, right? He loses the battle, great. There's a wedge between Kidman and the administrator. If Joseph wins the battle, then Joseph kills Kidman, and Kidman's no longer a problem, right? He can't attack Kidman that same way because she's inoculated against him. He can't get into her that same way. He can only apply outward pressure on her, not the inward pressure that Joseph is feeling. And you see him continuing the next stage of his game. So the first stage was, I've got to keep Kidman and Sebastian separated. Then I'm going to force this wedge between Kidman and the administrator by forcing a battle between Joseph and Kidman. Kidman wins. She pins the blame of the battle on the administrator, and Ruvik is left blameless in that. We're about to read we get the last piece of scrap here to put together, and we'll read the note from Ruvik here. This gives you a warning achievement. I sensed it the moment Marcello triggered the machine. He had removed my mind from the core. He thought he figured out how to get around me, but he is such a fool. The brain is nothing but more than matter. My consciousness is omnipresent. I can see them all, their memories, their thoughts, their fears. And by pulling In so many people, I will consume them all. From the weakest first, each mind gives me more power to conquer. When does my world end and reality begin? From now on, that line begins to blur. So with that achievement, we get a big insight into Ruvik there. The first thing I'll point out is kind of the simple thing at the bottom there. The more people that we said it over and over in Akumu, the more people that got pulled in, the more bioenergy, the more power Ruvik would get by harvesting them. Remember, it was an arms race for a while between Ruvik and Sebastian. Sebastian was also harvesting the same green gel, the same bioenergy when he would kill Haunted. Kidman isn't that. She's not a warrior, she's a spy.
See, Leslie? Almost there. Just a little further.
They give you just enough flash of lightning so that you can see that there is a church at the top of the hill that Leslie's wanting to get to. I want to point out a bug that happened in this particular pass of the game. This is the third time I've completed the game all the way through. And this is the first time out of all those runs, plus all the rerunning it to get the camera angles and everything right. This is the first time this happened. You're supposed to look up there where she shined the light, and Leslie should be standing on that ledge. He should jump down. He would follow her up to the gate. When there's a loud thundering roar in the background, she would tell him to hide in there, where I'm pointing the light now, underneath that statue, and he would crawl into that hole. None of that happens in this particular pass of the game. I don't know where Leslie is. He took a nap. But let me read this puzzle to you because it's going to wind up being important. At 5 came a plague, taking our livestock, and with that many took their own lives. At 7, Mother turned to the church. Their symbol was etched in her mind. At 14, I left, leaving a note. I wrote that I had gone to heaven. Now, obviously, that's the puzzle that you're going to solve to open the gate. But more than that, it shows how her life started with this kind of random event, presumably, at least as far as we know, a random event where a plague hit the livestock of the village. The livestock of the village was obviously the lifeblood of the village. The village itself, many in the village lost all complete hope. They committed suicide. They took their own lives. I mean, there's no greater expression of a loss of hope than taking your own life. I mean, at that point, you have no hope, right? That's why you do it. There's almost no other way to explain that. We've seen in our philosophy of the game that when people have no hope and they're confronted with the power of Ruvik and they have no hope, that they turn into the Haunted. Okay, so we've talked about the consumption, we've talked about Ruvik consuming it. That was the kind of easy part of that last message from Ruvik. Talk about the first part of that. He said, Jimenez has removed my mind. You removed my mind from the system, but you were such a fool. Mind is just a physical matter.
I guess you could say
my consciousness is omnipresent.
I would sneak
That's
into
telling
the
you two
graveyard,
things.
steal the statues and hide them. I wanted people to think they were cursed, but every morning they were back in their right place.
I want to be clear, that doesn't mean that Ruvik's mind is, that the physical brain of Ruben's brain is physically removed from the STEM system at Mobius. What Jimenez did was build his own STEM system, a wireless version, and he did not include Ruvik's mind as part of that. That was removing his mind from the blueprint of the system, if you will, not a physical removal of his brain. This goes to the discussion we had in Akumu, that the arms race between Sebastian and Ruvik turned into a foot race. That foot race is to get the beacon. I love this scene in the game. The game creators, Tango, Shinji, they all know that every player is going to pull that lever, even though in real life none of us would ever pull that lever. But you just have to find out what's going to happen. I think it's hilarious. It's just a jump scare, but it's so telegraphed that it's not really much of a jump scare, but I just think it's funny that they know you're going to pull that lever because you're going to have to. They know their audience. They know how you're going to use your 90%. You're going to pull that lever. Okay, so the arms race became a foot race. That foot race to Beacon Mental Hospital Ruvik has an advantage in that he can travel the electromechanical, bioelectrical, chemical pathways or whatever it is inside of STEM to get to Beacon. His conscious is omnipresent throughout any of the networked systems connected to STEM.
Come
so
on, the church is right ahead.
my theory is that the
Should be a
Beacon
little safer
STEM
in
was
there.
connected to the Mobius STEM, either through the same wireless connection or through a electrical connection, some sort of electrical mechanical connection. Ruvik is trying to get there. And what do we mean when Ruvik is trying to get there? Well, he's trying to herd everybody to Beacon. He saw Beacon appear. We saw from the main game, as well as this note, that he saw a Beacon appear. He saw the system turned on.
Ugh, damn it!
When he saw that, it was more corporeal to him than anything else he had been able to create inside there. So he knew it was another entire STEM thing. He knows that's where Leslie's body is tethered. He needs everybody to go there so that he can be there inside the system, ready for when Leslie gets there, and when Leslie's ready to exit the system, Ruben can be on board, right? That's his goal. That's his escape plan. We said in Akumu that he needed three things. He needed a door. That was something that the wireless system was providing him, was a physical connection of Leslie at Beacon. He needs a vessel. He needs Leslie. He needs something to go through the door. That's Leslie. And he needed a knife to sever his final tie. His final tie to STEM is the brain of Ruben Victoriano at the center of the Mobius STEM. He needs Sebastian to play the role of knife and cut that tether. It's important to understand that Ruben's mind is still physically at the Mobius site instead of at the Beacon Hospital. His part of the foot race is he needs to get, I don't know how to explain it, but he needs to get his whole brain, he needs to get the whole being of Ruben into the electrical components of Beacon Mental Hospital's STEM.
Go.
He needs to transfer that data from the brain over to there. He's going to need the final tether that would not allow him to leave, as if he's still tethered over there. So he needs Sebastian to sever that tether by severing that tether. Now again, it's not physical. Sebastian's in a pod too, right? But he's going to have to basically cut the tie so that Ruben can be fully transferred into Leslie at Beacon Hospital. Those are the three components that he needs. Now he's playing a mental game with Kidman. We talked about how he's driven a wedge between her and the administrator.
Nothing is
How
going to
he's
get you.
consciously
You have to stay
separating
with me.
Leslie,
There's no other way.
Kidman, and Sebastian. Now
Ruvik,
here's
what do you want
the rest
with
of
me?
his psyop on Kidman.
I'm just making sure you're doing your job. Just like me, I doubt they want damaged goods.
Back up! He's coming with me.
I hope so. I needn't remind you the consequences for failure. Your people aren't the only ones counting on this boy. You need him to get out.
As do I. We're all their pawns, eventual victims. They killed me. They ripped me apart and took what they needed. I will destroy what they wish to control.
Ruvik? Stop it! Let him go!
He is my vessel. I am in control.
I sense a conflict of interest. Just what was your mission exactly? Do you think their all-prying eyes can't see and hear? They've been watching you, kid.
What are you doing, kid? You are to bring the boy back to us.
No! I can't! If I bring Leslie out, Ruvik comes with him. We don't know what he's capable of. I can't let that happen.
Now that's certainly outward defiance. I mean, she's outwardly didn't
Swore allegiance.
say no, I will not follow
But
orders.
you are not in a position to make decisions like this. This is not acceptable behavior. You will bring us back that boy.
Not acceptable behavior, and you're not in a position to make those decisions.
Run all you want, kid. You can't escape. Like everyone else that crosses us, we will hunt you down.
And of course she's going to run at this point.
You have a job to do.
Now, as she runs through this, let's talk about that a little bit, right? He's saying that you have a job to do, that you are beholden to us, that you gave us your consent. You placed your hope in us. You gave us your consent to control these types of decisions. You're not in a position to make this decision yourself.
Get away from me!
That's the ultimate statement of what happens when you place your hope externally. When you place your hope in an external system, you're giving them control, your consent to make the decisions for you. When you're forced into a situation where you feel you want to make a decision, but that decision is different than those people that now have control of your life would make, these are the consequences.
Have you acting on your own?
And so this is the end of the assignment. This is when Kidman's assignment ends. This is when the consequences start. And I hope you stay with us through the consequences. More great gameplay. Another 6 episodes coming. Don't miss it.
Bring us back that boy.
Look at that light of beacon just blinding the whole screen at the end. Well, that was the assignment. You hear the sound. Since we have to play in a windowed mode, the actual achievement banners don't pop up on the window the way we were recording it. So I popped it up for you at the top up there. You see 0 deaths, 2 hours, 6 minutes. Hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed presenting it. We'll see you next week for the consequence. Thanks for watching.